Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Thanks for joining me. As you can tell, I'm in a place that's a little warm. Obviously, I'm wearing a t-shirt here on Thanksgiving. I was actually at the beach this morning, which is nice. First time I've ever done that. So again, if you haven't seen my videos, I haven't posted one in about 3 months or so. So the last one I talked all about what was going on with the eclipses coming up in October. Now we're past October, so we're kind of on the other side of that now. So feel free to check out that previous video and in terms of what I talk about as far as the timeline goes from late summer all the way until about late spring, early summer of 2015. So we're kind of in the thick of it, in that flow right now, kind of heading toward what I was calling in that video, everything coming together. So prepare for landing. And so we're starting to prepare for that landing as we're shifting fast forward through. But before we get even into 2015, we have this whole holiday season now. Again, today's Thanksgiving, so we're about 4 weeks away from Christmas, and another week after that will be New Year's, so we're in the thick of it now. Black Friday's tomorrow, and so I thought of a great idea of how to help you guys out with how to gift for people this holiday season. Astrology is a tool I use, obviously, and one of the best ways to utilize astrology is in looking at how we're unconsciously wired. And that doesn't mean how we're predetermined, it just means where our first tendency lies. And astrology reveals a lot of information about that. And the planet Venus is the one I want to focus on here, because the planet Venus is actually the planet that basically has to do with how we receive. So when it comes to gifting and receiving, it's a very important thing to look at. So we don't have to get into anything else, and I won't get into too much detail here, but I want to at least give you an overview of the differences in terms of where Venus is in a person's chart and what that says about unconscious tendencies related to how we receive. So we all have a tendency to receive differently, and I think we've all had that experience of buying for someone or gifting for someone in a way that we would think we would receive it well, only to find out that they receive differently than us, so our idea for what to gift didn't work out too well. And that's because we have different comfort zones when it comes to receiving. And we're all here to grow. We're not here to stay in our comfort zones, but it does help us out in our interactions, in our relationships with people, to understand where we're coming from, where those comfort zones are, so we can at least help people stay comfortable as they grow. And so the first step, though, is figuring out where we think we're comfortable, where we assume we have to stay in order to be comfortable, and where we're afraid to grow. Because it's those other people who receive differently than us that show us how to grow in those ways. And so what I'm going to do is just kind of break down Venus in the elements. Okay, so there's 4 elements: fire, air, earth, and water. There's 12 signs of the zodiac, and so three of each of those signs falls in each of these elements. So in the earth element, we have the signs of Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. Okay, in the water element, we have the signs of Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces. In the air element, we have the signs of Gemini, of Libra, and of Aquarius. And then in the fire, how can I miss fire? In the fire element, we have Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. Okay, and where Venus is in a chart is and can be very different from where the sun is. Like, for example, I was born March 13th, so I'm a Pisces, as people might say. All that means is the sun was in Pisces when I was born, and the sun is in Pisces late February to mid-March every year. So we all know what our sun sign is. If you just look in the newspaper for horoscopes, you'll have an idea of what your sun sign is. But that won't tell you anything about your Venus sign. So, I'm a Pisces. And Venus, when I was born, was in Aquarius. So we could say my Venus is in Aquarius, okay? But another Pisces might have Venus in Pisces, or Venus in Aries, or Venus in Taurus, or something like that, okay? So where Venus is in our chart is different from where our sun is. Sometimes people have the same, but it's not necessarily true. We have to figure out, what year they were born and what time. Time isn't as important, and that's why this is going to be very useful for people if you don't have someone's birth time, but you're trying to gift for someone, and you want to understand how they receive on an unconscious level, where their comfort zone is, what's going to help them receive your gift in the easiest way possible. You're going to want to at least know their birth date, so the month, day, and year. If you have that much information, 95 to 98% of the time, you're going to have what you need. On a rare occasion, when someone was born on the day that Venus happened to change signs, then you might have to get the exact time, or at least a rough time, to figure out where they fall. And I will post below this video a few links to some sources where you can actually look up charts yourself for free, so you can put your friends and family in there and see where Venus falls, in what sign. And you can kind of refer to what I talk about here, to how, in terms of how to think about how we want to gift for that person, okay? So, without further ado, let's go over some Venus in the elements, okay? So, what I like to do sometimes, I'll do some of these workshops with people where I go over not only Venus, but Moon, Mars, Mercury, the Sun, etc., putting people into the 4 element groups, and just kind of showing people how they're different, or how their unconscious tendencies are different from other people's unconscious tendencies. Again, it's the comfort zone. It's not where we want to stay necessarily, but we want to respect those comfort zones so that we can grow and interact with people, and have better, more understanding, more compassionate relationships, okay? And so, but when I get to Venus, what I like to talk about, and that's what we're going to focus on here, if we were to pretend that we have the 4 groups, fire, air, earth, water, okay? And we have the people whose Venus was in fire, air, earth, or water, and again, any one of those signs that fall into those elements. For example, my Venus was in Aquarius, so I would be in the air group in this situation, okay? Even though I'm a water sign, I'm a Pisces. But in terms of how we receive, and therefore how we will just unconsciously want to gift under the assumption that other people receive like we do, this is what we really need to understand, okay? So the analogy I use for this is actually the holiday season in terms of how we might perceive a gift, okay? So let's just take, for example, the same gift. We're going to gift it to all 4 of these groups and see how these 4 groups will initially react on an unconscious level to this gift. So let's just say it's a rock, okay? It's just a plain old rock, right? So how do you give a rock to someone who receives in a fire way? How do you give a rock to someone who receives in an earthy way? How do you give a rock to someone who receives in a water way? And how do you give a rock to someone who receives in an airy kind of way, okay? This is a question we want to answer. So if we were to give this rock to the fire group, and this would be people with Venus in Aries, again, not Sun in Aries, but Venus in Aries, Venus in Leo, and Venus in Sagittarius. These are people that receive in a way that they want to feel special, okay? So even someone who is, say, for example, a Virgo sun could easily have a Venus in Leo, and Virgos can be quite shy and practical, etc. And you might, under certain conditions, think that a practical gift would serve them, but whenever, lo and behold, every time the gifting season comes around, they seem to be like they're missing something from what they're receiving, because people are assuming they're a certain way when really they want that fun element, they want that surprise element, they want to feel special when it comes to receiving. But how would we know that, right, if we didn't have this kind of understanding of their unconscious tendency? So this fire group, again, Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius, Venus, people that have Venus in those signs, they want that excitement. They want to know that that rock means something to them specifically. So one example of how we could present this rock to that fire group to make it the kind of gift they could receive would be to write their name on it. Say like on all 4, top, bottom, front, and back, so that no matter how they place that rock down, it says their name. It's basically saying, whoa, this is my rock. I'm special. And there's a myriad of ways we can think of to decorate that rock so that it makes that person feel special. Because again, that's what's going to make that rock a gift that's receivable to someone with Venus in a fire sign. Okay, so it's just one example. We could go over that, for ever and ever. But I want to just kind of move on to the basics of all the other groups. Okay, if we were to go to the Earth group, people with Venus in Earth. So again, people with Venus in Taurus, Venus in Virgo, or Venus in Capricorn. Again, not sun sign, we're talking Venus. These are people that receive in a very practical way, in a very physical way. They need gifts that are useful, okay? So presenting this rock to the Earth group with their name on it is a useless gift. Whereas to the fire group, it's a great special gift. Do you see? You see that difference? To the Earth group, this is the group that you want to give them a list of things they can do with that rock. Use it as a paperweight. Use it as something to grab, to hold on to for stress release. Use it as think of your own things in that list. But the idea being that they're getting a gift that has many uses. That's very practical, and that's something they can feel with their hands and that they can use on a day-to-day basis. That's what's important, or what someone with a Venus and Earth values, okay? Because Venus, what it really does is it describes what we prefer and what we value on an unconscious level. And again, we're not trapped into these by the dictates of our natal chart, where our Venus was, where Venus was when we were born. But this is just our first unconscious tendency, where we go first. We're all capable of choosing how we want to react to a gift, but the problem is when we're unconscious of our unconscious reactions, we're stuck in them, and we're like kind of like a tape recorder going over and over again. And that's the whole point of this process, is to become conscious of the unconscious, so that we can be free to choose, essentially, and free to have our own experiences, and free to to laugh at ourselves at what makes us feel so comfortable. And that helps two people that, like, for example, someone with Venus and Earth versus someone with Venus and Fire. Imagine a romantic relationship or partnership like that. We can use another example where the Venus and Fire likes to go to new restaurants. If you're going to go on a date, the Venus and Earth likes to go to their restaurants, the familiar places. Okay, so you can see a clash right there. But imagine if the Venus and Fire person knows that they're with a Venus and Earth person, and they understand that just as much as they love to go to new restaurants, their partner loves to go to the familiar places. And imagine if they could come up with a way to honor both of those comfort zones in a way. It makes a big difference, rather than just saying my way is right and your way is wrong. And that's kind of how things deteriorate in relationships, is we almost pull back into our comfort zones at a certain point. At the beginning of relationships, it's all open, all let's explore this new realm, and then eventually we start to break down, especially around the holidays when we get reminded of where our comfort zones are because of our conditioning around our family members and things. That's when things will come up even more with our partnerships. But this also applies for parent-child relationships as well. A parent has a certain way of receiving a certain thing they find valuable about gifts, and what makes a gift a good gift and a bad gift, and then they assume their child, who's their genetic lineage, must have the same value system, or they want to teach them that value system, and it doesn't work that way. So just having respect for the differences that your child might have versus what you might have, or what you might want in a gift, and playing with that when it comes to this gifting and receiving season. So that covers the first two. Fire and the Earth, and everything I've said here applies to all four. So the remaining two, we have air and we have water. Okay, people with Venus and air, and I'm in this group. Okay, take that rock. How do we gift this rock to people that have Venus in either Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius? And again, these three signs that are in each of these elements, they are different. There are nuances here. Okay, and at the end I'll go over how we can decipher what those nuances are. But just for the sake of this, we're going to generalize it a little bit into the element. But again, so it's going to be Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius, at least on a general level. These are the air signs. So people with Venus in those signs, to give them a rock in a way that they're going to value it or feel comfortable in valuing it. Imagine if that rock comes with a story. Okay, and that story, the story behind that rock is that rock was found on the lake of in the Middle East somewhere, near an old battle zone or whatever, near this and that, and there's a story behind what makes the rock something interesting. Okay, what makes this rock interesting? Remember, fire Venus wants what makes this rock, what makes this rock say I'm special. Earth is what makes this rock practical. Air is what makes this rock basically interesting. Okay, and so if there's a really nice card with the rock, if there's a rock, if that rock has a really great story behind it, and it's gotten here into your hands with this great journey and this trip, and certain people have touched that rock, and there's, like I said, that's part of that story. It's like, who's this rock been around? And this is Lucky, by the way. She decided to join us a little bit. That's okay. She might come back up. I'm not sure where Lucky's Venus is. I know she's a Virgo sun, but I'll have to look it up and see where her Venus is and how she likes to receive. But what kind of doggy treats can she get? But just trying to get understanding how these different elements have a different way of valuing the same gift, if that gift has something behind it. Okay, and what it is that we put behind it is going to dictate how that person is going to feel in the initial reaction to that gift, what makes them comfortable. Okay, and so the final element is water. And so water is people with Venus in Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. So Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces with Venus. This is, again, not sun sign. And again, there are nuances here. So like my Aquarius Venus is a little different than someone with Gemini Venus, even though they are both in the air element. But what I said would apply roughly to both of those signs, okay? But here we're talking about, again, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces as far as Venus goes. And Venus and water, water's these are depths, they're emotions, it's our feelings, okay? So people with Venus in water, it's more about the sentiment than anything else. So again, we have give the rock to fire in a way that makes them feel special, give the rock to earth in a way that, helps them know that that is a practical gift they can use for many different things, give it to air, letting them know that it's an important, interesting gift that they're receiving, and give it to water. And now this is a group that wants meaning, they want sentiment, they wants to know who gave them the gift. Okay, so the rock can be a plain old rock, but if that grandmother they have such a special relationship to gave them that rock, that's the best rock ever. Okay, if it's more about the feeling that went into the gift, the thought. This is really where the thought does count. Okay, we always hear, oh, it's just a thought that counts. Well, tell that to someone with Venus and fire, because he'll tell you point blank that, maybe that's true, but damn it, we wanted to have fun with this, and tell it to Venus and Earth, who's like, well, but what can I use it for? Really, great thought, but what can I use it for? People that have some sense of the thought that counts would be Venus and air. Again, it's the interesting idea of the gift, or Venus and water. It's the I really wanted you to have this gift. It doesn't even matter what the gift is. It just matters that it was given to you by a certain person for a certain reason, and it's the reason that's what gives it meaning. Venus and water has probably the strongest tendency toward hoarding. We're all familiar with hoarding now, I think, with TLC, that show there. Not that everyone with Venus and water is a hoarder, but there is that tendency to hold on to things and not want to let things go. People with Venus and water signs, okay? And again, every one of us has some tendency toward these four. Even if our Venus is in one element, we can still have a tendency, still have some sense of tendency toward all of them. But these are just our default, our first place we go when we tend to go unconsciously again. And so the whole point of this exercise is to say, what can we become conscious of? Let's become conscious of our unconscious tendencies so that we can have control over it, so that we can choose, look, this is how I'm deciding to react and respond to this gift. How else could I respond? What else is possible? And that's what opens up the door to these other ways. And if we're sitting around thinking that, they're not, someone else that I'm gifting something to isn't reacting or receiving my gift in the way I would receive it, to get mad at them for that, without understanding that you're different, that you're wired differently, and that, sure, with some communication and some understanding of what your unconscious tendencies are, communication of what that is, acceptance of what that is, that's when you can start forming more functional relationships, understanding your differences, accepting them, and then deciding together how you want to choose. Maybe there's certain times when it's just easier to go stay with the comfort zone, and a partner in that, whether it's the parent, whether it's the child, whether it's the spouse, has to be more understanding with that, and that's what's going to help. And then there might be other times when you or the person you're in that relationship with, in that gifting receiving session, is in a state of mind where they can be more risky and go out of their comfort zone, and that's when they might decide to think, maybe that Venus and water can venture off into the Venus and Earth zone and say, well, what can I use this for? And maybe that Venus and air can admit part of themselves to say, I kind of want to feel special. Maybe it's not about how special the rock is and the story behind the rock, but maybe I want to feel special. And that's something that, like, Venus and air tends to be like, no, not me, that's not me, that's you. But maybe there's some truth to it, but we can't really go there. We can't really go out of our comfort zones unless we know it's safe to. And the first step is understanding where a comfort zone is, understanding how it differs from other people's comfort zones. Then together you can choose, okay, is this a day I want to come out of my comfort zone or not? And if it is, then it's a great time to experiment. And before you know it, you're growing. And that's kind of the definition of growth right there, when you're stepping out of your comfort zone. You're deciding, I'd rather grow than be comfortable, okay? But when we give each other a hard time for not being like we are, and for not receiving something the way we wanted them to receive it, that's when we're going to go down the wrong path. And by wrong, I just mean a path that's going to lead to some kind of discord, okay? If we want harmony in our relationships, then the first step is understanding, the second step is acceptance, and the third step is choice. Choice with compassion for everyone that's involved, and that includes yourself. So have some compassion for yourself if you just don't feel like stepping out of your comfort zone today. But also have some courage with yourself if it's a day that you do. All right? So with that, like I said, that's a general overview, the elemental overview of Venus in the signs. But there are nuances within those elements. You know, there's 3 signs in each of those elements, and there's a nuance there, okay? Like I said, my Venus in Aquarius is different than someone's Venus in Libra, even though they're both Venus in air, okay? So if you want to know more about that, what I am actually offering now, from now until the Christmas, New Year's holiday season, basically, is if you want to sign up with me, I do phone and in-person readings. I'm in San Diego. If you want in-person, outside of that I can do phone. But if you're interested in a natal chart reading, which is a birth chart reading, overview of your unconscious tendencies, your soul contract in this life, things like that, and what's happening now relative to that, and what's happening from now in the next, say, 6 to 12 months, and just some advice on how to navigate that for yourself. That's what's called the natal chart analysis. If you want one of those with me, or if you want to purchase one of those for someone as a gift, then with that purchase of a gift or a purchase for yourself, I will go over with you, not only your Venus and how it specifically relates in your chart in terms of receiving and gifting, but if you want to pair that with someone else you're really interested in understanding how to gift them, then I can do a comparison and really help you to understand that. So I'll throw that in complimentary on top of a natal chart reading. So that's an offer that's going to be good all the way through the holiday season. So feel free to take me up on that. Down below I will have, again, information on how you can look these charts up for people, and in most cases to find someone's Venus sign, it's just going to take their birth date, which does include the year. You will need the year. Birth time may be necessary if Venus changed signs that day, but again, it's going to be in a very rare occasion. I also have some information down there about how to get a hold of me to set up a consultation by phone or in person. So anyway, happy holidays. We're in the thick of it now. I just wanted to give you some insights on understanding our differences in this time of year and understanding how we can best gift to another person in a way that they can best receive it. Okay? So with that, enjoy the holidays, and I will be back for an update with you on the planets and what's happening. Right now we've got the moon right up. I can see it right above my head behind you. That's in Aquarius right now, a crescent moon. And so things are moving, like I said, and I'll come back with an update for you very soon. So let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to comment, and I will see you later. Thanks.